الصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Inshallah, let's continue then with Tafseer of Surah Al-Baqarah. And we have reached 200 and I think 20. Yeah, Ayat 220, inshallah. So Surah Al-Baqarah, let me share the screen first. I'm not sure if I'm sharing screen with you yet. Share the screen. Okay, so it's sharing screen now, inshallah. Good. So Surah Al-Baqarah, as we can see here, is the second surah of Al-Quran. The first is Al-Fatiha, which is the dua for guidance. And Surah Al-Baqarah is the initial response to this dua for guidance. So it is a very comprehensive framework of guidance, Surah Al-Baqarah. Gives you the very robust, if you like, scaffolding of the guidance of a Sharia. And in this, we appreciate that the guidance is based on Iman, and then Islam, Infaq and Jihad, and there is the objective of the Ummah given, and the objective is to convey the message on behalf of the Messenger. So this surah is giving the believers now their reason for them being an Ummah. Surah Al-Baqarah, it gives us clear understanding of our objectives as an Ummah. Is to establish a community based on Allah's guidance. And the foundation is Iman in Allah, the Akhirah and Risalah. And then the society becomes uniform and organized and structured, well knit, integrated, if you like, through their Islam, collective worship of Allah, whether it be a salat, whether it be Sawm, Hajj, Zakat, all of these have their aspect of society. And then all the do's and don'ts, the ahkam have been given on how to live in society, whether they be family related or money related or economy related or politically related. All of these have been given as a robust framework in Surah Al-Baqarah, and with the objective of shahadat al-nas, conveying the message. Allah Ta'ala, He is telling us, Udkhulu fi silmi kaffa, yourselves you should become all one body of believers, and therefore you then become the people who call to Allah. And to do this, you need to invest your energies and your resources in infaq, and you have to fight the enemy, Iblis and his army, through jihad. So we are now looking at the section talking to the believers, which is the central theme of this is to submit to the final messenger and act on all the commandments, to fulfill your responsibility of conveying the message to the rest of humanity. The Muslim doesn't do things just because it is good for himself or herself. Yeah? He does it or she does it because they realize that we are responsible for others and their guidance. So we do everything with the social responsibility, because the believer is the role model for humanity. So we should not mislead people through our own example. This is a hujjah. This could be a proof against the believer on the Day of Judgment, that you became the first obstacle for the disbelievers to be invited to Islam because of your own personal conduct. So for this Allah, He is guiding us in this section on the social commands, this section from 217 to 242. We have looked at the first few ayat, 217 to 18, we looked at, and then we looked at the prohibition of alcohol and gambling. So now we move on to look at other social aspects now, yeah, because the society is being formed here. The rights of those who don't have any guardians, parents, in terms of the father has passed away, so the children are orphans who cannot take care of themselves in the absence of the father, dependent. So Allah Ta'ala, He tells us about the orphans, and then the institution of marriage will be taken thoroughly in this surah later on as well. And then there's a section on divorce, as you can see there, and related matters and related ahkam. So inshallah, hopefully with that. So this is the aspect of Islam. All these are aspects of Islam. How to submit to Allah, the ahkam. So starting with ayah 220, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. We start from the previous ayah, maybe better, because there's a continuation. يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر قل فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما ويسألونك ماذا ينفقون قل العفو كذلك يبين الله لكم الآيات لعلكم تتفكرون. So we took that last lesson. في الدنيا والآخرة. So this is the connection. في الدنيا والآخرة. These are the signs for people to think about in terms of the dunya and the akhirah. ويسألونك عن اليتامى قل إصلاح لهم خير وإن تخالطوهم فإخوانكم والله يعلم المفسد من المصلح ولو شاء الله لأعنتكم إن الله عزيز حكيم. So that's regarding the orphans, and then regarding nikah. ولا تنكحوا المشركات حتى يؤمنن ولا أمة مؤمنة خير من مشركة ولو أعجبتكم ولا تنكحوا المشركين حتى يؤمنوا ولا عبد مؤمن خير من مشرك ولو أعجبكم أولئك يدعون إلى النار والله يدعو إلى الجنة والمغفرة بإذنه ويبين آياته للناس لعلهم يتذكرون. So that's regarding the marriage, and then regarding the marital relations. ويسألونك عن المحيض قل هو أذى فاعتزلوا النساء في المحيض ولا تقربوهن حتى يطهرن فإذا تطهرن فأتوهن من حيث أمركم الله إن الله يحب التوابين ويحب المتطهرين. نساؤكم حرث لكم فأتوا حرثكم أن شئتم وقدموا لأنفسكم واتقوا الله واعلموا أنكم ملاقوه وبشر المؤمنين. And then regarding taking of oaths, ولا تجعلوا الله عرضة لأيمانكم أن تبروا وتتقوا وتصلحوا بين الناس والله سميع عليم. لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم ولكن يؤاخذكم بما كسبت قلوبكم والله غفور حليم. So the first ayah here regarding the orphans. So here Allah Ta'ala is saying, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْيَتَامَى, they ask regarding the orphans. One of the Mufassirin, he mentions that the context is that because there are orphans from the mushrikeen and the mothers are still alive but the children are orphaned, you may tend to have this sympathy with the mothers to take them in nikah. Okay? Oh, sorry, that's the next ayah. This is regarding the yatama themselves. The Qur'an mentions before this, in terms of the revelation in Makkah as well, that وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا مَالَ الْيَتِيمِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Do not go near the wealth of the orphans except in to do good with it. And then there is a warning that whoever takes the wealth of an orphan unjustly, then that person has filled his belly with the fire. Yeah? So the orphans have money that they have inherited, but because there is no other person other than you who will now take care of that wealth, so you may abuse that wealth. So Allah Ta'ala is saying you have to not take that wealth and misuse it. So the Sahaba, when they heard this in the Qur'an, they were very, very scared and very vigilant because they had taqwa, that they went to the extreme that they would cook the food of the orphans separately. They would eat separately because they did not want to take any right of the orphan. And the food that was left over, the orphan's food, they would not touch it and it would go off and it would have to be thrown. And this was causing hardship because there has to now be, you have to cook for the family, but for the orphan, the cooking is separate, and then you have to store everything separately. And you have to keep making sure that what you have spent is from the orphan's money, etc. So this becomes difficult and tedious. But the Sahaba were very sensitive to Qur'an, so they tried to follow it to the best of their understanding. But then Allah Ta'ala, He says regarding the yatama, قُلْ إِصْلَاحُ لَهُمْ خَيْرٌ. So yes, you want what's good for them, this is good. However, you have gone further than what is needed. You have separated everything. وَإِن تُخَالِطُوهُمْ فَإِخْوَانُكُمْ. So if you were to mix with them, yeah, you mix, for example, you cook the same food, yeah, and you share the same food, etc., instead of making it difficult, then they are your brothers in the deen. This word is very important to understand. تُخَالِطُ, yeah, Khalitu means remember from the there are two words for the opposite. If you remember ikhlas, mukhlisin, that mukhlis means to single out and separate. Khalata means to mix up. So if you mix your affairs with theirs, then there's no issue. So khalat means to separate, to mix up, sorry. And this would mean to single out and separate, meaning you single out Allah Ta'ala from everything else as the one who you worship. Okay? So you can do that because if you have the intention of being good to them and you are just in your affairs, then Allah Ta'ala, He will not take you to account for every single penny because overall your intention is good. Wallahu ya'lamul mufsida min al-muslih. Allah, He knows the one who is causing mischief by not giving the orphan his right from the person who wants to give the orphan his right or her right and wants to make sure that everything is done correctly. Allah knows. He knows your intentions. So He does not want to make life difficult. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَأَعْنَتَكُمْ. If Allah had willed, He could have put you into this difficulty that you have put yourself into yourselves by separating everything for your orphans. Yeah, difficult. Allah Ta'ala doesn't want this. He doesn't want to give difficulty to you. Treat them as your brethren in deen. Inna Allah Azizun Hakim. Indeed, Allah, He is all able, exalted in might, powerful, but He is absolutely wise as well at the same time. So Allah Ta'ala, He is telling us that Allah Ta'ala, He is telling you, do this is the best for you. And this is absolutely based on wisdom. And you are the people who will benefit from this. So the rights of orphans have been mentioned here. And how to deal with them in the balanced manner. Then another related matter is that the orphans have mothers who may be mushrika. So you may be inclined now out of concern for them, sympathy, that you would then should take them as your wives in order to take care of them. So Allah Ta'ala is saying, وَلَا تَنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ. Do not take into your nikah, wedlock, those women that are mushrikat. Mushrikat here means the idol worshippers and those disbelievers other than the people of the book. From the Tafseer, yeah? Just keep it as that, keep it simple for now. When we come to that regarding the marrying of people of the book, etc., we will come to that when we come to that. We are not talking about that here. وَلَا تَنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ. Do not marry the mushrikat women who are the fire worshippers, etc., until they become believers. So for today mushrikat, other than the people of the book, are obviously the people Hindu, Buddhist, Sikh, atheist, agnostic, humanist, all of these mushrikat. Do not marry these people until they believe in the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. وَلَأَمَةٌ مُؤْمِنَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن مُشْرِكَةٍ وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ. Allah Ta'ala is saying that you may you may find that you may be inclined towards, you may like a mushrika. For example, she may be very well-to-do, she may be very attractive, etc. But Allah Ta'ala is saying that what is better for you is a believer, even if the believer is a slave, but she has belief. وَلَا تُنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنُوا. And you are not allowed to marry any mushrik man until the man becomes a believer. So, very simple, Allah Ta'ala is saying not to marry into the mushrik or mushrikat. Because وَلَعَبْدُ مُؤْمِنٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن مُشْرِكٍ وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكُمْ. A believing slave is better in the eyes of Allah for you and your deen and your akhirah and your iman and your Islam and your cause. You see, because we don't live with a cause. That's the main problem. We have so many issues. Because we don't have the objective of shahadat al-nas in front of us in our lives. So therefore we fall in love with the mushrik or mushrika because we don't know our objective in life. We're aimless. We think our deen, we think is just rituals, prayer, fasting, charity, being nice, that's it. No, when you realize your whole objective is to invite others to the worship of Allah alone, Tawheed, then how you would love a mushrik? It's not possible. Or a mushrika, you wouldn't. You would love these people or person to become Muslim. This is what you would love. And the other Tafseer mentions regarding this that one of the Sahaba, when he was mushrik, before he became believer, he used to have an affair, if you like, with a mushrika, and they had an illegal relationship. And then after he became Muslim, once when she saw him, she invited him to continue that relationship, and he refused because he said that I cannot, because this is haram. So she says, why don't we then get married? So the question was brought to the Prophet ﷺ, and then the ayat are revealed here that the mushrikat, even if you like them, you do not marry them until they become believers. Because when you love somebody, then your heart inclines towards them. And if you love them despite their shirk, then you have really missed the point. Because then that love can lead you to shirk. You see? You understand? That's why Allah Ta'ala is saving the believers from this. أُولَٰئِكَ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى النَّارِ. And Allah Ta'ala is saying, these people, they are inviting you to the hellfire. Now some ignorant people would say, no, the polytheist or the atheist may not invite you, may say, I'm happy with your belief and I keep my belief. Huh? It means that these people, they will affect you emotionally, and you may want to please them by becoming more, in quotes, liberal about your Islam, and then eventually you dilute it, like these liberal Bollywood actors who have in their house, same house, they have a room for Qur'an and room for the Gita and room for the Hanuman, and they pray to all of them because they're liberal. So Allah Ta'ala is saying, these people, they are calling you to the hellfire because you're influenced. You don't marry somebody you don't love, is it? Yes? And then you want to please the lover. Then slowly, Shaitan takes his role, and then they take you to the hellfire. Na'udhu billah min zalik. May Allah protect us from that. وَاللَّهُ يَدْعُو إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ وَالْمَغْفِرَةِ بِإِذْنِهِ. And look, what Allah is inviting you to, calling you to, guiding you to, is to Jannah and to His mercy, His forgiveness. When you make a mistake, Allah wants to forgive you. So, I mean, very clear, the ayah is telling us why Allah Ta'ala wants us not to do this. Because He wants what's best for us. He does not want us to put ourselves in any situation, especially emotional, because there's emotional attachment involved here that could lead us away. And many times people, if you see the history, many people have left the right path because of their emotional attachment to somebody or something. And even today, majority of the people who don't accept Islam is because they are emotionally attached to something or somebody or some god or goddess or some type of religion. So Allah Ta'ala is guiding us, should be emotionally intelligent. You hear this term? Emotional intelligence. This ayah is teaching us emotional intelligence. وَيُبَيِّنُ آيَاتِهِ لِلنَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَذَكَّرُونَ. Allah, He has clearly explained His signs, His ayat, His guidance to mankind for them to take heed, to get the benefit, to be reminded of the facts and then act accordingly to benefit themselves. And then another matter regarding the family life is the matter of hayd. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْمَحِيضِ. They ask you regarding the cycles, monthly cycle. What is the concept of this? Because many religions, they went to the extreme. So the Tafseer mentions that the Jews, they would separate themselves from their wives completely during this time. They would not share any food, any table, any nothing, as if they are untouchable completely. So this is the wrong attitude towards this. Allah mentions, قُلْ هُوَ أَذًى. There is in this harm, meaning in the actual, this whole process, فَاعْتَزِلُوا النِّسَاءَ فِي الْمَحِيضِ. So in this period of time, you keep away from them in what aspect? In the actual intimacy. You have to keep away from the actual intimacy between husband and wife. وَلَا تَقْرَبُهُنَّ حَتَّى يَطْهُرْنَ. And you will not have this close relationship with them until they have ended. Meaning this has come to an end and they are clean. But that is physically they are now ended in that cycle. But after that, فَإِذَا تَطَهَّرْنَا, it is essential that then the women, they would have a ghusl with the intention of being pure as Allah and His Messenger have commanded. Then they are pure enough for then the husband and wife to then have the same relationship again. فَآتُوهُنَّ مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ. And then you will be with each other as Allah He has guided and commanded you. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ التَّوَّابِينَ وَيُحِبُّ الْمُتَطَهِّرِينَ. Allah Ta'ala, He loves people who love to turn back to Allah. And Allah, He loves people who love to be pure and clean, spiritually, physically, in every aspect. So, when you make wudu, after wudu, you should ask Allah Ta'ala, oh Allah, make us from the tawwabin wa mutatahhirin. So we have just made wudu to please you, Allah, and to be clean and pure, to pray to you, to worship you. There are many, many ahadith regarding this whole topic of the hayd and the relationship between husband and wife in this time. And Prophet ﷺ and Aisha radiallahu anha, there are some very good hadiths to give us clear picture and clarify any misunderstandings or misconceptions, that the Prophet ﷺ, he would lie on our mother Aisha radiallahu anha's lap during this time. They would eat together, drink together, be together even in the bed. But the only thing which is not allowed is the actual intimacy. Other than that, there is no harm. So these are the limits and the very natural way of life Allah has given to the husband and wife. And then Allah mentions that after the fact that they have become purified, Nisa'ukum harthul lakum. You should regard your wives as your harth. Harth is your field, your cultivation. And this is very beautifully explained by one Mufassir. He says, just like a farmer's life and livelihood, his happiness, his sorrow, his concern, his efforts, his attention, his focus is on his hearth. Yes? He will tend to the crop, to the field, promptly at the right time, give it the right feed, give it the right plowing, take care of it, pray to Allah for it to be fruitful. Yes? So Allah Ta'ala is telling us, your wives are this important and close to you. Harthul lakum. And the next, the other understanding of tafsir is, of course, they are the means to have the children. So they are harth. So you have to make sure that the wife is treated in the manner that allows this fitra to take its course and for the children to be born. Because Allah Ta'ala, He loves that we, the believers, have children, because then the believers increase in number. And the more believers there are, the more they would worship Allah. So Allah Ta'ala is saying, this is your harth, where you plant your seeds to your intimacy for progeny, for children. فَأْتُوا حَرْثَكُمْ أَنَّ شِئْتُمْ. You may approach them in whatever manner you will, without any over legislation like the people of the book they did, and they made life difficult in every aspect, even today, especially the Jewish tradition. Even today, there are many, many restrictions in Judaism that are very difficult for people. So Allah Ta'ala is saying, you can approach them in any manner, as long as you do not carry out the act of the Qawm Lut. This is forbidden. So you do what is naturally the correct manner and makes sense for the husband and wife to have children. وَقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ. And you should send forth for yourselves, meaning you should have children that would benefit you in the hereafter. قَدِّمُوا. You send forward for yourselves the children that would be believers, and then their children until the day of judgment, all of these believers would be a means of charity for you, means of reward for you with their belief and with their actions, because you would be one of the causes of their good belief and good actions. So the objective of this intimacy is not just the seeking of pleasure, but the what's the word I'm looking for? For progeny, for children, reproduction of the human race. Wattaqullah. You should always have taqwa of Allah in all these matters, meaning do not go to the extreme that you may think, no, you fear Allah as He wants you to fear Him, meaning follow His instructions. Do not make your life over difficult. Because the problem is that many religions, they regard this relationship between husband and wife, the intimate relationship, as evil. This is the background of all this. This is the bottom line. This is the mentality that it is evil for man and woman to be intimate. This is evil. Yes? So they think, for example, as some of the people of the book who claim to be followers of Jesus alayhi salam, they became the monks. They don't want to marry. They become the nuns that don't marry because they think it is godless to be married. They think it is godly to not be married because the act of intimacy is evil in their eyes, you see? And many Muslims, they think this as well, unfortunately. They think that so-and-so didn't get married, oh, he's waliullah, he didn't even get married. As if not to marry is a status of righteousness. No, Prophet ﷺ condemned this. He said, "An-nikahu min sunnati faman raghiba an sunnati falaysa minni." Nikah, marriage is my way of life. Whoever turns away from it is not from me. So Allah Ta'ala is saying, you will meet Allah. You keep the balance. Taqwa is the balance. Taqwa is balance, which Allah has guided us to. وَبَشِّرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah Ta'ala, He gives good news to the believers who obey Him, have taqwa. They take the guidance given in these ayat. Allah Ta'ala is saying, you have the good news of the pleasure of Allah and the reward in the hereafter. So there are many things to say about this, but you should read Tafseer, Ibn Kathir, and if you can others, to read the different ahadith regarding these matters. They're important. They're important to know, because otherwise people, they don't know and they don't ask these, because these are very embarrassing questions for people to ask. So they don't ask, and then they don't know, they live in ignorance, and they make a mistake, or they make life more difficult than it needs to be. So learn the deen through the ahadith, and you will find all the details given there which give us the balance and make life easy. And when you read the ahadith, you will find that, subhanAllah, you'll say, Wallahi, Allah made life very easy for us. Very easy. I thought that, but this is so easy. Oh, I didn't know that, this is so easy. And then lastly, regarding the oaths, taking an oath. وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا اللَّهَ عُرْضَةً لِأَيْمَانِكُمْ أَن تَبَرُّوا وَتَتَّقُوا وَتُصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. Allah Ta'ala is saying, do not make Allah Ta'ala an oath by Allah an excuse to stop yourselves from doing good, righteous deeds, fearing Allah and making peace among people. Meaning, do not take an oath to do something wrong. Okay? Do not take an oath to do something wrong and to stop you from doing what's right. This is wrong. The Mufassirin mentioned tabarru is from bir, which is Ayat al-Bir we read. And all of this really is an extension of Ayat al-Bir. Tabarru is referring to the rights of people. So do not take an oath to not fulfill the rights of people. وَتَتَّقُوا, or the right of Allah. وَتُصْلِحُ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ, and the rights of society. So you see that in Surah An-Nur. Surah An-Nur, you know the incident of the ifk of Aisha radiallahu anha, when the slander was spread, and then her father Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu warda, he had a relative by the name of Mistah, and he used to financially help him. But when he realized that he was also part of the people who spread this rumor, then he said, I will not help him anymore. So Allah Ta'ala, He says regarding this attitude, which I'm trying to find here. If you see it before can you just spot it and tell me, please? It would make my life easy. If anybody knows where it is. Here we are, this ayah 22. Ayah 22. It says, let not those of virtue among you and wealth swear not to give aid. Yeah? To the relatives and the needy and the emigrants for the cause of Allah. وَلْيَعْفُوا وَلْيَصْفَحُوا. Pardon them and overlook. Don't you love that Allah forgives you? Allah is indeed forgiving and merciful. This is regarding to take an oath that no, I will not help you at all now. Allah Ta'ala is saying, don't take an oath to do something that Allah wants you to do. Yeah. So Allah Ta'ala, He has explained the ayah. The other ayah explains this ayah with a bit more, inshallah, examples and explanation. لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم. Now Allah Ta'ala is telling us, if you take an oath which is lagh is you don't mean it, and it is not really an oath. So for example, you have taken an oath by something, thinking it was true, but you found out that it was wrong. But you made a mistake. So Allah, He will not hold you responsible for that. Another type of lagh fi imanikum is for people whose habit, culturally it becomes a habit to swear by Allah, take an oath. Wallahi, billahi. Yes? You know, there is a matter of speech which becomes part of a culture. Allah Ta'ala is saying, Allah, He will not hold you to account and will not blame you for these types of lagh fi imanikum. Walakin, however, yu'akhidhukum bima kasabat qulubukum, but that which you intend with your hearts, yes, intentionally, and therefore you have earned the punishment for those oaths that you have taken and broken, then Allah, He would of course take you to account for that. That you have to fulfill your oath, or you pay the kafara, you pay the expiation to be able to undo the oath, undo the obligation. Because an oath is a commitment to Allah that I will do this. Yes, and if you don't do it, then you have to compensate for that. Allah Ta'ala, He is telling the believers not to take these types of oaths because they are blameworthy if they do. Wallahu ghafurun halim. Allah, He is very gracious, merciful, but at the same time, He is halim. He does not punish you immediately for these mistakes. He gives you time. He's forbearing. He gives you time, opportunity. He clarifies, makes life easy, reminds for you to make the amendments. So we will stop there for today, inshallah.